What's up, War Room? Welcome back. Joe and Connor, fresh off dropping the pod on Tuesday. Little Wednesday morning, answering some of your Discord questions, focusing a little more on the Cardinals matchup, which a lot of the questions are built around. CR, how we doing? How we feeling? First War Room in a bit. Getting ready for a big game upcoming.
Feeling good. The questions are flying in right now, ranging from what the hell does the future of this team look like to, hey, can we make the playoffs still? So this is gonna be a good one. Wide range of outcomes.
The first one I want to answer, which is not relevant to this season, but I was picking my brain on. What is the Jets' best individual performance over the last 5 years? This is on the back of Garrett's game against Houston, which had the catch of the year, where Garrett's now had that probably 2 years in a row. The first one that popped in my mind, and what I think is the right answer, is the Mike White game. It's games like in the Hall of Fame, threw for 400 yards and like 4 touchdowns. Someone mentioned Jamal Adams' old friend against the Giants, where he ripped the ball away and ran back a touchdown, had a couple sacks.
5 years is not a long time.
No, I mean there hasn't been there hasn't been a lot of like crazy individual performances. I don't think you can knock White off though. Although Garrett, like, it is a little lost. Like, he had 2 one-handed touchdown catches in that game, and also made a bunch of other ridiculously hard catches that were like just insane, and really looking like he could be the guy we talked about him being all off season. What clicks in your mind for that?
Ooh, this is a tough one. I feel like Brees against Miami in 2022.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
He had 97 rushing yards and a touchdown, and he had 100 receiving yards. That's in there. I don't know if that's the one. That's in there. When you have about 200 yards from scrimmage, and he only had 2 catches, so he had big catches. It just felt like it was like almost too easy that day. I would say that. I mean, what was Zach's actual stats against the Texans last year? I feel like it's one of those games where we think it's great, but like I don't.
He was AFC Player of the Week. I remember.
Okay.
So he threw for 3 touchdowns. Right, Cobb, Hall.
He threw for 301 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Completed 75% of his passes. You can't put that one past Mike White.
No.
I think it's Mike
throwing
White.
The game-winning touchdown pass to Tyler Kroft, Jets legend.
Oh my God. Was it Shaq Lawson had the tipped
the interception at the end? Yeah.
Oh my God. What a stupid game. Hilarious game that was. Stupid game. The thing about Garrett's is it just means more. I mean, the Jets season was on the line, and it's going to be on the line, folks, for the next every game they play. I think that it was at MetLife. He's
prime time.
Prime time. He's such an important player for this organization. I've been thinking about this for a while the last couple days. It would almost be and I don't think he would do this, as we've seen Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and guys like that avoid this. I don't think he would do this, but if he was willing, it would almost be a statement by the Jets if they paid him after this year. Yeah. Because, for those that don't know, real quick, you're eligible for an extension after your 3rd NFL season. You're not eligible for one before that. Typically, it doesn't matter anyway. Guys don't like to sign after that 3rd year because the reason teams are offering after a 3rd year, if they are, which is also rare, they're trying to get you at a number that will age well, because your rookie contract, you're already paid for the 4th year, so you're not getting extension money then. They have your 5th year option, so the number for that year is already kind of baked in. So then the 6th and 7th year is the actual extension part, and say they get Garrett Wilson for $30 million a year in year 2027 and 2028. He might be like the 26th highest paid receiver by then. That's why guys don't accept the deal. But why I think it would be a good look for the Jets is, 1, you're rewarding a player that's been through hell here, honestly, so far. And 2, I mean, do we think Garrett Wilson's going to be really good at age 26 and 27? Because I do. He's 24 years old right now. So, I think it would send a really good message to Jermaine, Brees, on and on it goes. Once again, it's not something I think that happens, but if I was the Jets, I would at least offer the player that choice to be rewarded.
Yeah, be proactive, right?
They're terrible at that, by the way.
Yeah,
terrible.
A common tweet or comment we get in the Discord is, "I'm terrified, effectively, of Garrett asking out. Why would he want to be here? And
Everyone,
how do we prevent that from happening? Because, and we've been consistent with this, guy gives a shit and plays his ass off, and if anything is pressing too hard. And now the last 5 weeks, it's everything we thought it could be. He's on pace to shatter some Brandon Marshall's single season record, which we hold in very high esteem here, and so does the franchise because it's so rare for the Jets.
And fits a lot of money, Brandon Marshall.
He's going to be 3 straight years over 1,000 yards to start his career, which again is not easy, especially with the situations the Jets have been dealing with. He has been a legitimate number 1 receiver the last 5 games. He wasn't that in the early part of the year, but it's clicking in a special way now. And yes, it sends a terrific message that this is a guy who's going to be here forever. He's going to be a building block, and he's earned it more so than Sauce has, more so than Brees has, more so than Jermaine has at this point. And he's a top 10 pick. So do what you did with Quinnen. And Quinnen is coming on like crazy right now and playing well. You feel good about giving him that contract, and he's a good face of the franchise. You want the same for Garrett. If you're not paying guys like Garrett Wilson, then what the hell are we even doing here? That's what you want at receiver. And if you're not paying him, then who or why are you paying anybody? So it works really well with Davante Adams. It will benefit him long-term that he's going to get this year or 2 with Davante to learn every little thing from him. And you're already seeing the benefits of how he's covered because he's just been dominant since he's been brought over here. So yes, please, God, get it done, and don't have this be a thing where we got to deal with a holdout or deal with him potentially going somewhere else, which would be incredibly shitty. And we don't want to deal with that.
That's sell the team status. You let Garrett Wilson out this building, you'll get what you deserve from backlash wise.
Absolutely. This question from Cuddy Shark. Is there something about the Jets scheme that limits interception opportunities? Too vanilla, lack of blitzing, mentality. Why did we dump the attacking style from the first Pats game? Feel like our corners will have more opportunities if we're more aggressive. Now, I do think we saw some of that in the Texans game to an extent. They heated it up a little more. I don't think it's a scheme thing. I think they've had opportunities for interceptions. They've just dropped them. And their lead corner doesn't have good hands. He drops 3 or 4 interceptions every year. He's dropped 3 or 4 interceptions this year. He dropped one against the Texans, I could argue. He had a really bad one against the Vikings. He had the bad one last year against Dak. They only have one guy who's got a real nose for the football back there, and it's Brandon Eccles, and he always has. In limited reps, he just finds ways to get interceptions. It's never really been a strength for Reed. I think his size probably does. Him and Carter are smaller corners, and maybe that plays into them getting less opportunities. And they've just never went and got the Justin Simmons type safety we've been asking for forever, who's a true ball hawk. They always play heavier at safety. And Ashton Davis has kind of been the closest thing, and he's gotten a couple interceptions. I don't think it's not this year, but in other years. It's just the wrong players. I think Mills could be more of that safety who should, I think, get an opportunity to get an interception or 2. I think he's even dropped 1 this season. It is insane. They only have 2 interceptions through 9 games. So that there'll be a game where they come in bunches, but they have to get better at forcing turnovers. Now, they had one against Houston, right? They had the strip sack, which was huge. They just got to find a way to catch the damn football. And, to snapping Sauce out of this funk where he's either hurt or getting a penalty on every play, making a big turnover could go a long way in doing that. And can a ball just end up in his lap and he has a big return? He scores a defensive touchdown. I even think back to his rookie year. They sent him on a corner blitz in the first play of the game, and he knocked Teddy Bridgewater out of the game and got a safety. Just something to get that guy's confidence going, because I think if he gets going, there could be a trickle-down effect. But yeah, man, they fall on fumbles and catch the ball. If they could start getting some more turnovers and get that to league average and be league average on specials, they're going to win a lot of these one-possession games. I don't think there's anything schematically here, though. It's just shitty luck in players.
Right. I mean, they're 24th in pass blitz rate. So they're not the bottom of the league. And, teams that are in the bottom, besides Jacksonville, 49ers, the Bills, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Packers. By the way, the Packers are below the Jets. The Packers are 26. Xavier McKinney, their safety, has 6 picks. So that's not a correlation to me. I think it's the type of player they like. I think the Jets, and how they coach them, the Jets like smart, responsible, sound corners, and they coach them that way, and they don't take a lot of risk. But when those guys start to lose confidence, it's hard for them to kind of correct that. And I think we're seeing that with Sauce, right? Sauce is guessing right now. He's guessing. And their situational awareness is really poor. They don't identify when a team is trying to run a rub route against them. They don't communicate on crossers. The thing that drives me insane. And I will tell people to watch for this now going forward. This is like a little behind the curtain of something I see, and I don't even get angry at all during. People will be surprised watching football with me. I'm basically just like this the entire time throughout everything. Something that really bothers me is when the Jets give up a pass that's 15 to 20 yards or whatever it is, and the nearest corner looks for somebody else right away to blame.
Oh, they love doing that. They love doing that.
If I saw that as Ulbrich on film for the 9th week in a row, I would MF somebody in the film room so hard and be like, I don't give a shit whose fault it was. Don't ever, for the cameras, get up and blame someone. It is the worst look in the sport.
Yep.
And the Jets do this every week. Yep. So that's just driving me nuts. And but that goes back to my whole point about them not playing confident. And
yeah,
I think, what's going to get them on track if they do, and I think they're going to get on track, is that the front is heating up after the quarterback. Reddick, McDonald, and Quinnen are really going to start chasing around quarterbacks. And by the way, look at the schedule. It's kind of interesting. Oddly enough, I know it felt like, I don't know if I want to see Flacco. It's like, now you kind of do. Because the Jets are horrible against running quarterbacks. Yeah. It'll be interesting how they handle Kyler next week. Kyler's been bizarre. Weird. He had 2 runs last week. Kyler has these games where he runs for 40-yard touchdown, and then he has a game where he has no interest in going anywhere. So we'll see what Kyler does. But besides that, Flacco doesn't move. Geno, who had a dreadful day against the Rams rush. I think he was sacked 7 times.
Yeah, 3 interceptions, sacked 7 times.
Yeah. Tua is not going to move because he doesn't want to get hit. Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, of course, which causes its own array of problems, and then Tua again. In theory, McDonald, Quinnen, and Reddick should be chasing around every quarterback they play, or not having to chase them around, just finishing plays. And that's going to eventually lead to a bad decision, and that's going to eventually help these corners out that have had it tough most of this year. I want to be fair to these corners. They've had to really hold up a long time in coverage. So I think that's something that does benefit the Jets here down the stretch compared to how things opened up. Brock Purdy, okay, he doesn't really run that much, but Brock's actually more athletic than people think. Will Levis, he's going to run a lot. Brissett, who couldn't move, and they killed him. Bo Nix, all he wants to do is run. Yeah. Sam Darnold, who's been moving a lot this year. Josh Allen. Russell Wilson, that game was just disgusting. Drake May ran all over them before he got hurt. And
even Jacoby Brissett ran all over them.
Right. And CJ Stroud, who had, I think, 60 yards rushing. Yeah. So hopefully that the schedule changing in that way, besides Kyler and Josh Allen, helps them.
Underdog fantasy stretch run of the NFL season here. Make sure you're getting your higher lowers in. Earlier in the episode, Connor mentioned Rodgers going over 300 yards would be a great higher pick. A good lower pick could potentially be Sauce Gardner, keeping Marvin Harrison Jr. under his total. A lot of good options out there. The point is, do it. Use a deposit match. Get a deposit match with promo code Badlands. CR, how we feeling at this stage of the season?
Feeling good. Let's keep things running hot with Garrett Wilson right now. It feels like every single week he gets enough receptions. He's going over his yards. Now we're getting multiple touchdowns in the mix. So the Rodgers-Garrett Wilson connection is everything we want it to be. Let's ride it until the wheels fall off.
Amen. So Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code Badlands for a deposit match today. Yeah, I think all Jet fans are terrified of running quarterbacks. And I agree with you in flipping our stance. That's better probably that they're going to play Flacco now instead of Richardson. It seems to be headed that way. Kyler's such a high variance player. He just plays very different week over week. And we could use this to curve into the Cardinals conversation because we got a lot of questions about. On paper, this is not a good matchup for the Jets, right? Now, this is a game that we thought would be easier at the beginning of the year, potentially. Never easy for the Jets to go to the West Coast. I actually think it was one of the games I picked them to lose in our season preview guide because it's just burned into my head that whenever the Jets go west, and a lot of this is tied to all the games they lost to the Raiders when I was younger, that they just never really show up. They've had a lot of bad experiences against the Raiders. They've had bad experiences in Denver. They haven't played a lot in Arizona, although if you remember in 2016, our favorite season, that was the year that Geno was like melting down on the sideline because they wouldn't pull Fitz for him. And then I think they brought Geno in. He threw an interception anyway. But like Fitz was just throwing interceptions all over the field and they got killed.
God, that season was the worst.
Just truly the worst.
The worst.
And, the Cardinals are a team that I think everyone thought would be like 6-11, 7-10 this year. They're 5-4 right now. They've won a lot of close games. They've hung around. They run the hell out of the football, which is what scares me about the matchup. And they're physical. They do a lot of heavy sets. Trey McBride, a guy that we liked a lot, spent a lot of time talking about in the draft process, has been really good for them as a two-way player. Yeah, James Conner, tough running back. They have speed at the other running backs that they rotate in. Of course, Kyler could run. MHJ has been a little up and down. I feel like he's not healthy. Old friend Greg Dortch is also running around making plays for them. But they're a physical team. Their defense is a little inconsistent, but they can run the ball and they're going to show up. Even last year, I think they were feistier than most people thought they were going to be. Everyone thought they were going to be a joke with Gannon, and they really weren't. They were more competitive, I think, than their talent level was. And it's a hard game for the Jets. And I think the line's right to have them. I think they're 1.5 point underdogs. I bet the line settles at 1 or a half point. My hope in this game, I don't think there's a perfect answer for the Jets defensively. You just have to do the fundamentals right. Keep your rush lane integrity, overload the box, and make Kyler throw to beat you. Don't let him beat you running. Don't let James Conner run for 170 yards. If he puts the ball up down the field and you can't make any plays, then you lose. But the Jets are going to have to score points in this game. Be back really with Rodgers, with Devontae, with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, and go score 30 points and maybe win a game 30-24 or 30-27 because the Cardinals are going to move the ball and they're going to score points. But can you force turnovers? Can you win special teams for once? And can Rodgers now string together coming off of halfway through 3 touchdowns and was really good and had a nice scramble and looked like he could move? Can he go out and go 23 of 31 for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that and just be the best quarterback on the field and win the game? And if you ask me to make the pick today, I'll make the pick in our 12-pack. I would, and I don't care if I get burned again. I would still probably pick the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are better than the Jets in a full body of work this year, and I don't love the Jets going to the West Coast. I do like they're coming off a mini bye. I do like that the Cardinals have been kind of hot lately and they feel like they're due for a letdown game. I think it's going to be close, but it's a tough one. I think this game is meaningfully harder than the Colts game from a matchup perspective, which of course means they're going to beat the Cardinals and lose to the Colts, just like they did with the Patriots and the Texans. I wish they were playing, in some ways, I wish they were playing the Colts this week than the Cardinals. I know it doesn't matter. You need to play them both anyway. I just feel like I'm lying or being a homer if I'm I love how they match up with them because I watched how they beat the Bears and I'm this is I was getting flashbacks of how the Niners beat the Jets. I'm they're just going to run the ball like crazy on the Jets. And why Houston didn't run the ball more is beyond me. They gave Mixon 8 or 9 more carries. I wonder how that game goes because Stroud doesn't have it against this defense for whatever reason. So I don't know. What am I overthinking this? Is are the Cardinals kind of a soft 5-4 where it's just like the Texans were a soft 6-2. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
It's a tougher game than people realize, although maybe not, considering, like you said, Arizona might be favorites by a point here. I mean, the Cardinals, there's things that the Jets match up well in this game, in theory. Sauce hasn't been Sauce this year, but Marv's the type of receiver that you would think Sauce matches up well with. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, wildly inconsistent. They don't scare you in that regard. You got to be careful with Trey McBride because he's the type of tight end that can eat you up in the middle of the field. When you look at their offensive line, old friend Kelvin Beachum at right tackle, by the way.
Wow, he's still going. Our guy.
It's crazy.
Is Brino Giacomini still in the league somewhere too?
Oh my God, right? Oh, that was not a fun era. Not fun at all. You would think this is an offensive line that the Jets can get after a little bit in terms of getting chances to rush. Run blocking, like this team's going to run block against the Jets, but you would think that the Jets with Reddick, McDonald, and Quinnen be able to rush the passer a little bit. Then that brings the element when Kyler decides to run. The Jets are not good at defending running quarterbacks, but Kyler is such an enigma with the way he runs. He does those little steps, and sometimes he just drifts out of bounds into nothing. And then sometimes he actually sticks his foot in the ground and cuts up the field, and he's gone for 40 yards. Yeah. So that's a part that scares me. On defense, they are punching above their weight, is how I would put it. Like, I'm wildly impressed that they even compete defensively, because if you're a Jets fan, just go on our lads and look up their like you won't know anybody besides Budda Baker. Really, the only reason I know these guys is because they're all day 3 draft names I've gone over through the years. So, and they did just trade for Baron Browning for the Broncos, who's a good rusher when healthy. We'll see if that helps them and how much he's willing to give. They've been missing one of their first round picks in Darius Robinson for much of this year on defense. They just don't have a lot of talent on defense. They got to play as a unit. And that's why you see them win games typically, or when they lose games, they still give up a lot of points typically. So this will be a high scoring game, in my opinion. This is a game that the Jets should be able to, in theory, try to dictate some of the pacing of it. And if Arizona, who can run the ball really well with James Conner and even a little bit of Trey Benson and obviously Kyler Murray, in theory, it's the New England game the first time where you want to get ahead and get them out of their run element and make them throw. And Kyler can make some plays, but you don't want him dropping back 45 times. So the Jets need to find a way to remain aggressive in this one. And in my opinion, there's not a corner on these teams that can cover either Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson. So this should be, in theory, a good day for the Jets offense, and it's a matter of the defense can be okay, not great, but okay to help them win. And most of the time when matchups are that close like they are with this, it comes down to doing the little things right, like making your field goals, not having special teams penalties. And the problem is the Jets haven't shown they're that kind of unit yet. So this is where that has to turn.
Yeah, it's not often we say this with Jet games, but it feels like an over game. It feels like this will be a higher scoring game, and it's a game where they should be able to have some offensive fireworks. Like, put the ball down the field. Stick with that, Rodgers. Throw the ball down the field. Right. Yes, now. Indoors is good.
The outdoor element really, not to make excuses because they lost and played like shit, but the Denver rain, it killed them that game. It killed them.
It really did. Goddamn rain coming out of nowhere. It's ruined the entire season so far. I mean, look, this is a winnable game. And I feel like I say this a lot, but I feel like you're going to know right away with this game. Like, is it going to be 10-0 before you blink your eyes, or can Rodgers pick up where he left off and hit Garrett Wilson for an early 23-yard touchdown? And it's 7-0 Jets and they just forced a punt. It's all right. The confidence and the momentum is building here, because I know the game got flexed, which is good, but you win this game, you're playing one of the teams in front of you in the standings. Broncos probably likely to lose again to the Chiefs next week. Bengals have a tough game against the Ravens. That sheet of standings starts going from 20% to 40% pretty quickly if you could go get this game. And now winning 2 games in a row, is a thing. They did that earlier this year. Of course, it was followed by a 5-game losing streak, but stringing together some wins and you keep the dream alive.
Well, the vibes would be insane if they do win.
Especially if they are winning in the way they did. Yeah, winning in the way they did against Houston, where you're throwing a bunch of fun touchdown passes. And it was the least exciting of the 3 touchdown passes, I guess, but the ease at which they threw a 40-yard touchdown on 3rd and 1 from Rodgers to Devontae was about the easiest looking offensive touchdown I've seen the Jets score since I can't remember when. The Jets just don't score a lot of touchdowns. If you've been watching the Jets throughout the drought, they score like, it was like week 10 last year, and I can name all of the Jets touchdowns off the top of my head because they were scoring 1 or 0 every single week. So when they scored, it was hard. It was Garrett Wilson making an insane catch. It was like Nick Bawden barely falling in the end zone. It was like not exciting. It was the Eagles letting Breece Hall score, or he scores against the Giants when you think the whistle like blew. Like they're just not normal easy touchdowns. That was, and if there's more of that, that's why we were saying they needed Devontae Adams. That's why we were saying they need another receiver. That's a different kind of team, and that's a team that, for all their other flaws, can go 9-8. Now they have to do it, and having confidence in them to do it feels a little out over our skis because they played a good first half. But they're not playing the Bills, they're not playing the Chiefs, they're not playing the Lions. Like the Cardinals are probably going to finish 8-9 or 9-8. So just like the Texans are probably going to finish 9-8 or 10-7. So can you go get a win and keep this thing alive? Well, we shall see, because it gets a little more real if they can win this game. Any final players to watch, maybe outside the radar, off the radar a little bit in particular for this matchup, that you think will be particularly important?
Well, our favorite game, offensive line Tetris, right? Because
of course,
the reality is, like I said, the Arizona doesn't have the matchup players defensively in this game. And famous last words, like the Jets have star talent on offense here. And Arizona is a lot of Jags out on defense and coverage. Buda Baker can make a big play, but, So if the Tetris offensive line keeps Rodgers upright, like this is a game. All right, I want to be careful with this.
Is it Kenny Yeboah?
Kenny Yeboah is an interesting one in this. It's Rodgers has this long streak where he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in like what? It's insane.
It's been forever. It's been like 4 seasons, I think, or something.
It really has. It really, really has. I know Arizona's been feisty on defense. They have. I'm going to say this is the week the streak ends.
Wow.
I think
the Brett Favre Cardinals game, bringing it back 16 years later.
Indoors, Arizona defense. I think Rodgers breaks the 300-yard mark for the first time in years.
I'll tell you this, and we didn't hold up our end of the bargain, so I apologize to the person who asked us to do this. We're supposed to drink cayenne pepper water on the pod. We need to obtain it because I don't have any on hand.
It's tough to talk though after. I've had stuff with cayenne in it before as somebody who used to drink a lot of juices. I used to like it in between shows, but during the show, it could sit in your throat. You and I do a lot of podcasting throughout the week.
It's true. I'll say this. If they win, we need to do it at some point anyway, but if they win, and if Rodgers throws for 300 yards, we will drink it on the pod and we will power right through it. If anyone knows the best way to make it or order it, if there's a cayenne pepper drink out there who wants to sponsor us, right here, done. Badlands, we're in, we'll do it. We should have done it anyway, but it's coming sooner rather than later. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you're back on the feed tomorrow. Flight Plan on Thursday, Buck the Trend Friday, TOJ Talk Saturday, 12-pack will be live Sunday before kickoff. Connor and I will be recording some version of post-game reaction, hopefully post-game party late night Sunday. And then we'll be back into the swing of things. So content on the feed every single day. Thank you for all the Discord engagement as always, and we will talk to you soon.